Today's podcast is all about the good, the concerning, and the encouraging from day one of OTA. So buckle up, Battle Red Nation. Texans football is back. So is the Locked On Texans podcast.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. This is for Texan fans all around. I'm your Texans football analyst and credential media member, your Locked On Texans host, John Hickman. Thank you for making the Locked On Texans podcast a part of your everyday routine. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day, for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's podcast is all about the first day of OTAs, the good, the eyes in the bubble, any concerns, and that part of the show will be done with Cole Thompson. He'll be back, 790 Sports Radio, 790, and the Texan Wire writer. Cole Thompson will be back to talk Texans and all of the inside the bubble information that is needed. And also the encouraging, a lot of reports came out of day one of the Houston Texans OTA practice from some great media members here, the Houston Texans circuit, who cover the Houston Texans. And again, Cole Thompson will be one of those media members to join the show. But a lot of good, a lot of really good, a lot of encouraging reports. Nico being the lead man in the wide receiver unit, taking charge. That was something that was discussed recently on the show. When I look at Nico Collins being the top dog, the vet in the room, no Stephon Diggs, no Robert Woods, and I never want to not give credit to Robert Woods for his veteran presence and leadership during his time with the Houston Texans. Also, maybe the biggest report, the first look at the Texans' potential new offensive line, starting from left to right. Cam Robinson, Laken Tomlinson, Jake Matthews, who was just signed not that long ago, went out there with the ones at center. Titus Howard, right guard. Shout out to Stan Norfleet. He mentioned Titus Howard at right guard on the Texan Squad show this past Tuesday. Make sure you check out the next pod, dropping on Friday. We do live shows on Tuesdays and Fridays. Blake Fisher at right tackle, and some encouraging reports about Blake Fisher's body transformation. All of the reports from day one of just how good Kamari Lassiter looked to kick off this phase of the offseason workout programs. And let me add this, because Will Anderson had he did a post press conference, and Will Anderson is amazing at what he does when you ask him questions. But Will Anderson, you are not an unk yet. Okay, this is your third year, brother. As a matter of fact, you are still the nephew to some people, but that just speaks towards the leadership that Will Anderson exudes, right? A year under Danielle Hunter, a year under the presence of several great defensive leaders on that side of the ball, along with D'Amico Ryans, Matt Burke, and their coaching staff. For him to have that unk presence speaks towards just how much of a leader he is for the entire team. Now, while some receivers are off on a boat doing whatever they're doing, Houston don't have to worry about this year. The good to kick off today's show is with the fifth-year receiver, Nico Collins, being the guy, being the leader Houston needs, leading off every charge at every rep. Setting the tone for the unit that is filled with question marks. Houston will need him to be Superman on the field, but also off the field, also in those meetings, also in the locker room. Nico called being in that opportunity, being in this position as the top guy, a blessing. Continued with, there are a lot of guys that are looking up to me. So it's only right for me to go in and do my best work, go in and do 1% and be better than I was yesterday. Be a great leader and be the guy that everyone is looking up to. It's only right that I come out here and get better each and every day. That's my goal. He also spoke very highly of Jaden Higgins, who, by the way, looks sharp and also look bigger than what he did during draft season. Houston will have two bullies at receiver on the outside, and I also believe that they'll give Jaden Higgins some good looks on the inside. Called him a playmaker, but just how much he's there for the new guys to lean on, and I think there's value in a player who is a back-to-back 1,000-yard player in the NFL, who is widely regarded as a top 7 receiver when healthy, to be in that room and to elevate that room. And Nico coming in, being in shape, twitchy, right, close to midseason form is a bonus. I don't think Nico has stopped working out since the season ended. That room needs him, and Collins is ready to answer. So that's probably my biggest takeaway in terms of the good from day one, right? Guys were not out there practicing. No CJ out there. And I can't wait to talk to Cole Thompson about that. CJ was present. CJ didn't throw. Let me make sure I clarify that. CJ Stroud was in the building, in the bubble rather, but he did not throw any passes. But the presence of the guys that were there, Nico being probably a top 5 in terms of important player, you can maybe make the case top 3. CJ Stroud on the offensive side of the ball, Will Anderson, Derek Stingley, Nico Daniil, right? Those guys are going to be the guys that on both sides of the ball, the team will lean on. And for Nico, it's extremely important for them to lean on him because early on, they're still going to be figuring some things out. They are still going to figure out how to get the newcomers involved. And speaking of newcomers, Christian Kirk, Nico Collins had an opportunity to kind of talk about Christian Kirk and his addition. Called Kirk a slot magician. That's what you want to hear. Slot magic, man. He is going to go crazy in the slot. That's one guy you need, just another playmaker, another guy in the offense that's going to make plays, and that's one of them. And he used the word playmaker a lot, specifically too. And I think this is a great takeaway because we hadn't had an opportunity to really hear from Nick Caley in a while. But Nico Collins was asked about Nick Caley's approach and his offensive philosophy. And he responded by saying, Nick is a playmaker, man. He knows how to get the playmakers the ball. Great situation. So I can't wait to really get going on Sundays and for the offense to keep clicking. Right now, we're in the learning stage, which is a great thing to be in year one, right? And for Nico to be there, even for CJ Stroud, who again didn't participate in any throwing activities, but he was there mentally. New offense, new words, new terminologies. So we have to digest that. But once we do, we are clicking. A lot of good takeaways from day one of OTAs. A lot of good overreactions. A lot of good opportunity for guys to see some of the videos that are out on social media. And I would probably say one of the biggest overreactions that I saw, the wide receivers were lining up, going through, different drills. And I saw a drop pass from John Mechie. And shout out to Texans Cap. I saw him tweet that he's going to be on the John Mechie train until it goes off derailment. Well, I also saw the overreaction from Texan fans and the quote-unquote experiment or the time that John Mechie has had here in Houston seems to be for the Texan fan base. They're ready for it to come to an end. Pump your brakes, guys. It is May. We are not even in June yet. Give Mechie his time. But there was a lot of good to come away from day one of OTAs. Now we got to look at more things that may have not been good. Maybe the absences, maybe not seeing some of those guys out there. And we'll do that from the eyes of Cole Thompson because he was in the bubble on Wednesday to see everything from a different view. So we got more Locked On Texans on the way. Make sure you are locked in on Locked On. However, we are about to get into the NBA Finals. It looks like it's going to be OKC who close out Minnesota versus the Indiana Pacers. I think this is going to be a great finals matchup. And FanDuel is giving you the opportunity to not literally be in the game. Like you can't go check in and take over Obi Toppin minutes. You can't go check in and take over for Chet Holmgren. But what you can do is be in the game from the sideline with FanDuel. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now with FanDuel, who makes it easy for you to stay in the game before tip-off and live. How do they make it easy? They got all of the better player props. They got the base performance trends for you to look at. Same game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you've got a read on a player who's heating up, maybe this is Alex Caruso's time to go get him 2 threes in the game, right? Why not back it up with a same game parlay? How could a $200 bonus in bets add to the excitement that's already going on, to the action? If your first $5 bet hits, I could tell you how it's going to add to the excitement. Run it back. So if you're new to FanDuel, this is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Let me repeat that for you guys. All it takes is for you to win your first $5 bet, and if that wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Thank you for staying locked in. We got Cole Thompson, 790, Sports Radio 790, Texans Wire. Before we talk Texans football, we are both excited about college football 26.
The video game. Holy crap. The fact that they actually did Enter Sandman as the song, and it's hyping you up, and you're seeing the drones get in line for UT's logo and Florida's logo, and they got the soft little ambience from Chapel Hill to Pasadena. College football lives here. It's like, oh, shut up and take my money. Just take it. Take it, and I'll never give it back.
You got 2 college football fans here on the show, but we are also 2 people that cover the Houston Texans. And it was a rainy day for the Houston Texans on day 1. They entered the bubble where they proceeded with practice. And it was a good day for Houston. However, this is what I want to talk to you about today. Was C.J. Stroud just doing Davis Mills a solid because he knows the New Orleans Saints will be calling for a quarterback soon? C.J. Stroud just not throwing right now. Nico Ryan says everybody's on their own schedule. Should Texas fans be worried when an install of a first-year offensive coordinator playbook?
Oh, absolutely. They should be sitting on pins and needles, John, wondering, clutching pearls while saying, how dare I against non-tackling competition? C.J. Stroud, no, it's fine. Like, it's fine. Let's just start off with this. C.J. Stroud last year was sacked 52 times. The Texans gave up 54 sacks. Your body cannot withstand that much pressure drilling down on you on a consistent basis. So you're probably dealing with some off-season lingerings of just trying to get back up to speed. The question is C.J. Stroud not in the film study? Is C.J. Stroud not with the playbook? Is he not having these one-on-one meetings with Nick Caley? Because of identity, you want to be smart with the brain and the IQ up top before you translate on the field. And yes, do you want to see that relationship form with a Christian Kirk and a Jaden Higgins and a Jalen Knoll? Absolutely. But as long as you're able to kind of have a good understanding about what Nick Caley wants to run, what are some things that you should be looking for? What are some things that you are going to see with the offensive line on film study, whether it be watching tape from New England or watching tape from Los Angeles? I'm not really worried at this point. And I don't think really anybody should. Now, is New Orleans going to call for Davis Mills? I don't think so. I think that Houston's going to jack up the price. You know, if anything, Pittsburgh probably should call for Davis Mills because you're not landing Kirk Cousins. Who the hell knows what's going on with Aaron Rodgers' situation right now? So, like, that feels like a more safe option when you talk about teams needing veteran quarterbacks to come on in and be a difference maker from day one. But I just think more so it's, let's not rush CJ into doing anything when we know he is our starting quarterback. We know that he is going to be ready for week 1. We know that he is going to be prepared, and he's still here going through all the other attributes that we want in our franchise signal caller. Like, that's where I look at the CJ Stroud conversation.
You know what? I know what Aaron Rodgers is doing right now, the opposite of whatever the DARE program was preaching to us 90s babies. But there was another that was absent. And this is where I do think it gets bad because I agree with everything. I agree with everything.
On that one.
I think with CJ Stroud, there's no real worry. For me, it's not. All right, this is May. We're not even in June yet. But a guy that I want to see out there, didn't see out there on the first day, Christian Harris. Now is it time to be worried about the future of Christian Harris on this team?
Worried, probably not, but I think that your plans have changed. I think that going into last year, you thought this is going to be my Fred Warner of the defense. He's going to be the signal caller, the captain on the field. He is that guy. You know, he fits when it comes to coverage plays, former defensive back turned linebacker to Alabama. I think now it's turned to, well, he's got to prove that he can, number one, stay on the field and that he is the right guy to be seeing these amount of reps. And it could be injury related. It could be contract related. We don't know. Now, again, D'Amico did say afterwards, everybody is on their own schedule. This is also voluntary. You don't have to be here. And the fact that you are here, it shows that you care, but we're not going to go pedal to the metal on any of these things. So I look at this from a standpoint of, well, maybe if Christian Harris is not out there for mandatory minicamp on June 10th, and you're watching as EJ Speed gets more improved and he gets more acclimated to D'Amico's system, and you continue to see Azeez Al-Shaair and Henry To'oTo'o look like that 1-2 combination that was great at times really early on in the season before Harris's arrival, then maybe we can have the conversation of what is exactly Harris's role today. And if there is an asking price out there for a team that maybe wants to go after a linebacker, would we entertain it? Because the Texans are one of these teams that don't like to waste day 3 picks, but they also like to not waste people's time or people's talent. They'll do what they have to be able to put them in a better situation. They did that with Malik Collins. Collins signed a new deal underneath the previous regime with Lovie Smith. They realized not a fit here for us anymore. So they traded him to San Francisco. They got a late round pick, and they used that late round pick to go move up in the draft. So that might be something that we talk about. I don't know what it is with Christian Harris right now, but the quad injury really derailed his progression last year. You know, the calf injury, my apologies. Like we remember hearing about how great of an offseason he was having, and then he comes back for like 1 day of training camp. He's out there for like a quick cup of coffee, and then immediately he goes right back to the injury report. He starts the year on the IR. He doesn't come back until after the bye week. Everyone moves forward, and that's kind of the negative surrounding this sport, is that you may be great for that one season, but your encore is the thing that's going to get you paid. Your next step is the thing that's going to keep you in the eyes and good graces of the coaching staff and of the personnel. It's what you do after you kind of set the tone is what eventually will be the reason why either you're thought as a long-term play and you're bought in and you get a massive contract extension, or you kind of just say, hey, it was nice knowing you for that one season. We'll never forget what you were able to do and help us get to a playoff spot.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I look at the Christian Harris situation altogether, because of how 24 went, it would have been different if we would have saw him out on the field a little bit more, and if we would have saw him, I think, more a part of the defensive success. But he wasn't out there, and Henry To'oTo'o did step up, and Azeez's arrival did do a good thing for the growth of Henry T, and who he talked about the first day of OTAs, and him just getting better and better. So even though this is voluntary, I would have liked to saw Christian Harris out there. I would have liked to see how he's doing, see how he's moving, see how his body is looking physically, and see how he's reacting to just getting into playing football. I don't know. It's not no contact going on. We understand that, but just
like, let me ask you it from this perspective. Like, let's say that he's injured and he's dealing with a minor tweak, and it's something with his calf, and he goes out there and the calf pops, and now he has to have surgery, and he's out for 6 months, and he's not ready until December. Like, little things like that, they may feel like they may feel like nothing, but in an area where it's May, like we're still in the month where Justin Timberlake's saying it's gonna be May. Like, we're not even into June in the summer really just yet. Just breathe. Like, mandatory minicamp, if he's not out there, I am absolutely on board with you. Let's have this conversation. But it's still Justin Timberlake's month. Let's all just take a deep breather and not go bye.
You better make sure you give some love to the Tauruses out there, because they are headstrong and will come find you. But my last question to you before we move on: Cam Robinson, Lincoln Tomlinson, Jake Andrews, Titus Howard, Blake Fisher. That was the first rotation of the offensive line. How do you feel about that? Jake Andrews.
Okay, let's talk.
Just picked up recently.
Let's address the elephant in the room. It's Jake Andrews. The reason why I am cautiously optimistic when it comes to Jake Andrews is his relationship with Cole Popovich at Troy. Yeah. He was an all Sun Belt player at Troy as a center, and Cole Popovich was his coach.
Yes.
So if anybody knows what's going to work and what's not, it is Cole Popovich. It's like, I was not a fan of the Cole Popovich hire initially, but then you realize, oh, his relationship with Nick Caley, they both come from Dante Scarnecchia's coaching tree. And then you talk to people around the league, and it's like, no, the thing that really stood out about Cole Popovich was his role in the offensive line was the part that was working. It was Chris Strausser's role that was actually hindering the success of the offensive line. So I'm not ready to say Jarrett Patterson versus Andrews versus Scruggs for the center spot. And I'm not ready to say that Andrews is just going to walk into week 1 against Los Angeles and be the starter. But it's nice to know that there is somebody who already has a good understanding of what Andrews is going to be as a player, currently leading the rest of the offensive line. So I think that's a win. Everything else right now, I think, is up in the air. I'll be interested to see, because Tay Ursery got some reps on the right side. He got some reps on the left side. You saw Ed Ingram get some reps. Austin Deckles got some reps at right tackle. Okay, we understand Austin Deckles is not going to. We're not going to go that far. But like Jarrett Patterson got some reps with the ones. Scruggs got some reps with the ones. So it's like all of this right now, I think it's just Nick Caley kind of going and throwing out the feelers. Who fits where? What works really well? Who is moving in the right direction? What are some areas that we got to see some improvements? Because I don't think that going into even mandatory minicamp, we're going to have a good inclination on who are going to be the starting 5 offensive linemen.
I don't think it's going to get real until July.
What I will say is I am very thankful that the Texans are actually doing 2 joint practices, one with the Lions and one with the Panthers, because you already know that there's going to be a game plan where you don't have to play starters or a majority of your key contributors because they're going to be going up against live competition in practice. But I remember last year watching the way that the Los Angeles Rams defensive line was just mollywopping left and right and just punch after punch after punch, like throwing the damn towel kind of feel on the offensive line. And I remember saying, the Texans are going to be a good team this year, but the offensive line is going to keep them from winning a Super Bowl. And this is where I was like done with Chris Strausser. Like, I thought last season Strausser was and then after watching that practice against the Rams, nope, out. He's like, you got to retire. You got to move on. I don't know what's going to, like, that was the very first sign of seeing, hey, Shaq Mason, he aged over a summer. Like, he went from, like, when you hit 30 and like your back starts to hurt, you don't want to get out of bed. And
I know.
Yeah, and you got to start like watching out with your multivitamins and stuff like that. Like, that was the moment. Like, that summer, that was what was like, crap, Shaq's got to take his multivitamins at this point. Like, he's got to have a daily regimen. They're like, we got to know he's set in. Like, that was that moment. So the joint practice, I think, is where we're going to get a good feel on what this offensive line is, who's standing out, and who fits where.
Yeah. Thank you for stopping by, Cole. Mandatory minicamp starts June 10th, right?
June 10th, but I'll be out there on Friday for OTAs. I'll be out there next week for OTAs. It's going to be fun. But also just remember, guys, it's Justin Timberlake's month. We don't need to hyperbicize everything that we're seeing.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Christian Kirk's a slot magician that's going to go for over 2,000 yards this year.
Yes, we do.
That is exactly what we're going to see right now.
Yes, we do need to overreact, because if we're not overreacting in May, then we can't get that out by the time real season gets here.
I'll tell
you
you,
got to get the overreaction out now.
When you win by 2 points, when the Texans win by 2 points against Los Angeles Rams, it's Super Bowl time, baby. All the way to the Lombardi Trophy. Let's go.
You already know it, Cole. Where can they find all your great work?
Check me out at Mr. Cole Thompson on Twitter. If you love college football content, you can check out my YouTube channel at SEC Unfiltered. Make sure that you're reading the Texans Wire for daily notes coming from OTAs and mandatory minicamp next month. And, of course, every single day to get this type of content with me, Adam Clanton, and Adam Wexler. Please listen to the A-Team on Sports Talk 790 and preset the iHeartRadio app. #1 preset, Sports Talk 790.
There we go, Cole. We'll have you back soon, man.
Anytime, brother.
Battle Red Nation, thank you for making Locked On Texans your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting. As training camp gets closer, OTAs are back, football is in action, moves are being made. Host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Now, as we dive into the encouraging from day one of OTAs for the Houston Texans, I'm going to be honest with you guys, man. I thought there was a lot of good things going on the field. Again, I love the energy that Kamari Lassiter was bringing out there. Every rep that I saw, he looked faster. And he looked like he was already he's ready for training camp. He's ready to go up against Detroit. He's ready to go up against the Panthers. He's ready for some football action. But one of my smallest takeaways, and I thought that maybe could be overlooked by some, the center position having the real competition for that offensive line. Like even with the Houston Texans drafted Ariante Arcery, they made it known that he is a tackle. The vision for him is to be a tackle for the future, right? But they signed Cam Robinson to a $12 million deal, up to $14 million he can make this year. Like we feel comfortable as of right now, at least in terms of having the conversation, that Cam Robinson will be the starting left tackle. And before he was traded from Jacksonville, he was doing a decent job at left tackle in 2024. Blake Fisher, who Cody Stoops mentioned his body transformation a year into the NFL, going into year 2 now. Houston signed Trent Brown. If Trent Brown is motivated, we've talked about that. If he's in shape, that's a good competition to have. Do I foresee that going to Blake Fisher? I can make the case to that. But the one conversation, the one position battle that I personally wanted to wait until July to see was the center position. Jarrett Patterson, Juice Scruggs, and the late addition, Jake Andrews. Jake Andrews was out there practicing with the ones to kick off day 1 of OTAs. And that, for me, is an indication on a couple of things. Number one, Jake Andrews and his time at Troy, how good he was by his senior year. That senior year, who was his coach? Cole Popovich. Okay, well, yeah. And then Jake Andrews goes where? Well, he goes to New England. He's let go due to injuries. The Houston Texans signed him recently, not that long ago, to see Jake Andrews out there running with the ones, I thought shows that, hey, maybe Juice and Jarrett are not, that maybe they're not the guys we foresee running and being the nucleus for our offensive line. And why that is encouraging? Because for Houston, they are not tied to Juice or Jarrett Patterson. They wanted Andrews. They went and signed Andrews. And I think that this competition, it will be healthy. But it isn't all about the physicality of the game for this competition. It's encouraging to see Andrews out there because is there a mental edge that he has on Juice and Jarrett? Right? And this is one thing that I love from DeMeco Ryans. You talk about the encouraging from day one. DeMeco Ryans talked about how beneficial it is to have the offensive line, most of the O-line there. He said, I think it's very beneficial if guys are here because you can get a lot of good productive work done. Understanding the scheme, understanding the terminology, and the things that we're using, actually performing the techniques and executing. I'll stop right there. This is why I think it's encouraging to see Jake Matthews out there. Because if he's out there running with the ones, and this is just a mixture of guys right now, this is not the final 5. I think that's what we need to label this offensive line by week 1, the final 5. The final 5. Dun, dun, dun. The final 5. This is not the final 5. But he kicked it off. So did he kick it off because physically, maybe is he in better shape? I don't know. But I would lean more towards understanding the scheme, a guy being able to come in, be the nucleus of your offensive line, and with new guys on this offensive line. If you look at the offensive line right now, Cam Robinson is new, Lincoln Tomlinson is new, Jake Andrews is new. The only returners are Blake Fisher and Titus Howard. Those guys are a part of the last offensive line regime. They're going to go through their learning curve. So it feels like Houston needed a guy in the middle that they can count on, and maybe that's Jake Andrews. And I am extremely excited to see how that position battle turns out. Another encouragement was just always hearing from Will Anderson. He talked about his growth since being drafted. One thing he mentioned was we left a lot of sacks out there on the table, and that is why I'm talking about going back and being precise. How good can you be at the process of attacking the throwing on? That's something that I thought the Houston Texans did a very good job of against the likes of Josh Allen. How good can you be at taking the ball away? getting good with the strip sack, picking it up, taking it to the crib. Those are the things we want to start putting into our bag. Finesse moves and things like that can take our game to the next level. And listen here, the one knock that I had on Will Anderson coming out wasn't necessarily too bendy, and he was a guy that I thought had to work on his pass rush moves. From year 1 to year 2, you see the clear jump from that. Now he's going into year 3 from year 2, and he's been working out with Myles Garrett. Right, said that they didn't do a lot of pass rush moves, but just working out the mentality of the game, mentally being where you need to be. But he's also another year under Danielle Hunter. This guy could very well end up being a top 2 defensive player of the year candidate. And that is a award I think now reserved to edge rushers, defensive linemen. He could very well be there this year. Talking about getting strip sacks and taking it to the house. You got another edge rusher here in Houston that can score touchdowns on a defense that is already greedy and wants to take the ball away. It is encouraging for all Texan fans to sit back and say, hey, you know what? Danielle, thank you for your time. Thank you for everything you've done. You got another year coming. They signed you to a contract extension. But Will Anderson is the young guy that can actually create. This dude is going to be able to take over games, man. This guy will be able to take over games. All the Houston Texans need from Will Anderson is to be healthy for 15 to 16 games in the playoffs. And I think you're looking at a defensive player of the year candidate, a strong candidate at that, not just like a top 7 pick when they get the voting. No, man, this guy could be top 3, top 2, potentially top 1 by the time his career is over with, maybe in year 3 because of just how good he is. So when I look at the defensive side of the ball, I see a guy in Will Anderson who's excited about football junkie, a guy who can't wait to get back out there. No tackling is going on right now, but just the mental aspect of the game. When I look at the offensive side of the ball on the offensive line, I look at Jake Andrews coming in and being inserted into the first unit to go out there as the fight for the Final 5 kicks off in OTAs now. The mental aspect that I believe he'll bring and that edge over the other guys in the unit that I believe he'll bring, that competition will be the center position itself will be a battle that I want everybody to keep their eyes on. Please make sure that you continue to listen to the Locked On Texans podcast. Got a treat for you guys. Once June kicks off, Locked On Texans will be entering our own off-season program. So we'll go down from 5 shows to 3 shows here on the show. But I got something for you guys. I'll be doing my own version of the Rookie Diaries, and you want to make sure that you tune in for the Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noah Rookie Diary episode. I got a guest who can help break it all down for those 2 outstanding college receivers. Hopefully the Houston Texans get that version of Iowa State in Houston to help their wide receiving core. Please follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Follow the Locked On Texan podcast on YouTube. Subscribe, like, and comment. Make sure you leave your comments below as well. And follow the Locked On Texan podcast on Twitter at Locked On Texans. Until next time, ladies and gents, Texan fans across the nation, Battle Red. I'll be back soon. Peace.